Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And South Africa have won this game by 7 wickets and have won this series 2-1. And yeah, well done to them. And the reason why I think this win is kind of so good for them is because the way they lost the first game, and I said before that there were kind of positives in that fourth innings, despite the fact they didn't score too many. But that being said, it takes a lot to implement those in the next two games, and they did exactly that. And especially if you look at these fourth innings chases, they got bowled out for 229 in the first innings of the second test, and then 210 in the first innings of this test. So in both cases, they've had to chase slightly more than what they got bowled out for. And yeah, they really would have had to galvanize a group for these two innings just after the kind of the lowest scores in the other ones. And the fact that they won the game so dominantly by 7 wickets in both games, and yeah, they dominated both these chases. And I think that yeah, hats off to them, and they thoroughly deserve to win this series. And even with the bowling, I think that they've improved as this series has gone along. In the first test, they were kind of all over the place, but especially in the last two tests, apart from that one spell where I think towards the end of day two, Rahane and Pujara were batting and they kind of leaked runs to get India 85 for 2 at stunts. But apart from that, they've been pretty much on the money in both in these last two tests. And Marco Jansen, I think that I talked about the fact that I understood why they played him in the first test. I think that tall left arm bowler who can swing the ball in conditions that assist the seamers, such as in South Africa, I think that it would have been almost impossible to ignore if you have that kind of player in your squad. And in the end, he's, as far as the bowlers have been concerned, he's proven to be the find of the series. And as far as batsmen, I think that you could put Bavuma in this category as well. But I'm saying that as far as someone who's looked comfortable with the crease every time he's walked in, I think Keegan Peterson. Okay, you could say Bavuma hasn't failed in this series, but I especially think the 3 impact 50s that Keegan Peterson has scored. I think that the thing is, as far as both those players have look really comfortable, and the thing is, South Africa have had to face tough bowling. The ball's beaten them about many times, but I think that yeah, when the boundary balls came, they took those opportunities, and they took the India kind of let them get too many singles as well, and they grew in confidence because of this. And yeah, I think that they really pretty much everyone contributed in these two chases, and yeah, they thoroughly deserve to win this series. And about this game, I think India won the toss. They chose to bat first. And I think that in this game on the whole, the dismissals were kind of off good bowling. I think that you couldn't really blame the batting sides. And yeah, I think that India were 33 for 2 in yeah. Both openers were dismissed for 12. Rahul scored 12 and Agarwal scored 15. And Pujara and Kohli kind of made sure India didn't lose another wicket until and saw them until the lunch break, where they batted very cautiously. Pujara got out for 43 of 77, a good innings, and Rahane then got out for 9 off a Jaffa by Rabad, and he also got out for I think 1 off 9 for another Jaffa by Rabad in the second. And the thing is, if you're looking at Rahane and Pujara, what I'm trying to say is, especially if you look at Rahane this innings, you may think, okay, what's he done over the past few months? But what I'm trying to say is, one, as I said, he has scored vital winning for 50s when India have kind of really required him to. And also, in this series, and Sean Pollock said this on commentary, for someone who's been, or seems to be under pressure coming into this series, the kind of shots he's played have just been brilliant. And the thing is, even his contribution, a vital 48 in the first innings of the first test match. Then he scores 20, which I think that, as I said, India were kind of allowed to be scrappy because I thought that the 111 for 6 point, whatever kind of runs they got above that was a bonus. Rahane scored a brisk 20 in that. And then you could say he played a bad shot in the first innings of the second test, but then he scores a vital 58. And in this test, he's faced 2 Jaffas. So what has he actually done wrong? I don't get the fact with both these players that the moment they get out for whether it's a good ball or not, and especially when it's a good ball, I think that you kind of have to respect that. And the thing is, there shouldn't be a clamour that when they score a 50 and if they get out to an unplayable delivery the next innings, there's a clamour as to whether they should be dropped or not. I honestly just don't get this. And Yeah, that was Rahane. And the thing is, this innings was Kohli and Pant had a bit of a partnership until Pant got out to kind of playing a bit of a wide one. And yeah, he got caught with 27. And after that, the wickets kind of tumbled. And Kohli, who had been so disciplined up till that point, I'd say he kind of in throughout this innings, he really in both these innings actually in this game, he really tempted himself to not go for the drive unless he really needed to. He played many drives, but he also left outside the off stump, which showed a lot of discipline. And yeah, and you could say, especially when the bowlers came into bat, he kind of had to be a bit more expansive. And a ball that he probably wouldn't have played at, he got out of Rabada. But I must say, the clamour kind of before this game, Mr. Kohli's form slump, which I talked about in the other video, why I think that talk is just ridiculous, because I think in this innings especially, or in this game, he showed why that talk is completely ridiculous. And I'm saying, as far as the how hard he had to work to get his runs, I think that this innings is probably the best I've seen him play. And even in the second innings, 29 of 143, and yet the kind of, especially the partnership play with Rishabh Pant attacking and Kohli, who was he had played a few drives the previous day, and this today, and in that particular day where he had the partnership with Rishabh Pant, he was really kind of watchful, and I think that, well, which is an understatement, I think the Rishabh Pant attacking and him kind of defending, it allowed India to kind of, there were 4 wickets down at that stage, and they developed a partnership to get them to a reasonable kind of standpoint. And so, yeah, Kohli this game, I think he showed why that whole out of form talk is just ridiculous, because, he was honestly brilliant this game. And India got out for 223, which you'd say is kind of under par, but I still thought they had a bit of a chance considering their bowlers could use the conditions, and they did, because the thing is, both these innings, if you look at both these innings, they kind of revolved around one player's contribution. 79 from Kohli in the first in India's innings, and 72 from Keegan Peterson in South Africa's innings. And how this went was Dean Elgar got dismissed later on the day by Bumrah for 3 off 16, and then Maharaj came into bat as a night watchman. And the next day, I think in the second ball of the day, Aiden Markram got out similar to the Van der Dusen dismissal of Jasprit Bumrah, and he got dismissed by Bumrah. And the thing is, if you look at, okay, Markram's highest score has been 31. He hasn't really been able to bat time either, and he hasn't really got many contributions. But the thing is, there's been 1 or 2 kind of bad dismissals, but apart from that, he's faced good deliveries. And I think that Shami and Bumrah, yes, they've kind of had a number on him this series, but I don't think you can blame him apart from 1 or 2. And yeah, that's on Markram. I don't actually think that it's really a form slump. Okay, he isn't getting scores, but I'm saying that if you look at the bowling he's had to face, it's pretty... I don't really think you could say that much there. Maharaj came into bat, and I think that, look, if you look at Maharaj in this series, he's had more use as a batsman than as a bowler. And I think that the thing about him is that if you thought, out of all the surfaces in this test, you thought that this was the most likely, and even then there was basically hardly any assistance, or probably close to nothing for the spinners, even in this one, and yet it was the most likely for him to get any purchase out of the surface, and yet he hardly bowled. He got 1 wicket, but he hardly bowled. And he's actually kind of been used as a batsman in this series. And I think that he scored 25 or 45. And if you look at as far as a night watchman contribution, if there had been more scores from the other batsmen, then as a night watchman, yes, he got out when it was 45 for 3 when he got out. But the thing is, I think that he did his job. And I think that the feeling I got when he kind of was scoring boundaries, I think that I spoke about this in the last video, the concept of luxury bowling. Now, India did bowl very well in this test. Many deliveries beat the bat. But I think that in this test, if you look at South Africa, they kind of kept it at one place. And I think that it was very hard for India to kind of score their runs. Whereas if you look at India, yes, they bowled many deliveries. You could say they were kind of unlucky in a way that so many beat the bat. But I think that there was a release ball in the form of whether a boundary ball or in the form of kind of singles. And I think that the South African batsmen, they gained in confidence. And I think they look in this case, So the South African lower order is probably the best batting lower order in world cricket, and I think that if again you saw the same effect in this case where the night watchman, who whatever runs that he hits is a bonus, and the fact that he scores 25, I think that luckily India got him out because they could have unnecessarily leaked more runs there, and yeah, there was a partnership between Keegan Peterson and Rassie van der Dussen, which kind of took them until lunch. And after lunch, van der Dussen was looking a bit shaky, and he got caught off the slips by Umesh Yadav. And Bavuma, and I talked about the fact that both Bavuma and Keegan Peterson, how comfortable they've been. He's effectively not failed at all. I think his driving kind of straight down the ground has been the best part of his innings in this series. And I just think that once again, 28 or 52, he's basically not failed this series at all. And after he got out, I think that between 150 and 180, South Africa kind of lost their way. It's basically Keegan Peterson who was kind of holding the innings together. And I think that he got to his 50 in kind of a relatively, well, not quick time, but kind of middling time. And after that, he had to play a lot of dot balls, and he saw wickets falling at the other end. And yes, 72 of 166, he really held the innings together. South Africa would have been really disappointed with 210 all out. And Bumrah with 5 for 42 in 23.3. And the first innings, Rabada was brilliant. I think that, I kind of forgot to talk about that. I think that, if you look at his figures, you think 73 runs in 22 overs, and you think that for someone looking at how well he bowled, you'd think that it was a bit expensive. But I think, especially, well, maybe not towards the end, but I think that especially at the start, the openers did get a few runs off him, even though he bowled some unplayable deliveries. And I think that, Rabada was excellent in this test match, and so was Bumrah, 5 for 42 and 23.3. Really kept his team in it. And Shami 2 for 39 and 60. And so, India had another kind of a reprieve with a small lead. But I think that if they got 220 odd and you add the 13 runs on, and they would have been defending close to what they would have been defending in the second test. And India batted. And straight away after the first delivery, which just seemed the way of fraction, Rahul acknowledged it as well. Rabada bowled it. And I think that, it was apparent it was going to be very difficult. And the opening partnership lasted 20 runs, and Mayank Agarwal played a straight drive off Rabada. And the very next ball, it was a Jaffa. He couldn't have really done much about it, and he was caught. I think it was at the slips. And Rahul got out. You could have said it was a bit wide, but even then it wasn't that wide. I think it was off Marco Jansen. And so, and this, you could say South Africa could have done a bit better after this point. Yes, there were quite a few good deliveries, but especially Kohli got a few drives away. Pujara got, I think, one boundary away or something. And they got a lead of 70 by the end of the day, 57 for 2 at the end of the day. And you saw India were in the driving seat. And very quickly to the next day, Pujara got out, got a short leg, and Rahane got out by another Jaffa from Rabada. I've said what I've said about that. And I think that this partnership was honestly vital for India to even get the score they got. And as I said, Kohli, especially after playing a few drives the previous day, he was really kind of very cautious in today with Rishabh Pant attacking the bowlers. Kohli got out for 20 off 29, I think off Lungi Ngidi. And after that, you could have kind of just said there was basically no support. Ashwin got out to a shot that it doesn't sum up his ability as a batsman. And it was basically Rishabh Pant, and the bowlers just didn't really do much. But there was a time when Rishabh Pant was trying all these funky shots, and even Hashim Amla said he kind of wanted that to come off because his favourite shot was the one he played off Jimmy Anderson, a similar shot. And I think that, he tried a few shots, and there was even a time when he's kind of taking singles every over, and the bowler's blocking out a delivery. And he tried to go for it in the end. It took a while, but he got his 100 of 139 deliveries. His 4th test century, I think, and he scored, I think, 3 overseas test centuries and 1 in India. And so, he's honestly he's only 24, and he's got this kind of an impact. I think, 159 against Australia. In 2018, I think. Then he scores 114 against England. Then he scored the England one before the Australia one. Then he scores 100 against England in India, and now he scores a brilliant 100 against South Africa when his team really needed it. And the thing is, They got all out for 198, and he scores just above half the runs and remains not out at the end. So yeah, I think brilliant innings. And I think that these innings where you attack in Test cricket, I think they're probably for me the hardest to play, because you still have to maintain the cricketing sense to respect the good ball when it does come, and yet you play your shots. I think that Rishabh Pant, especially after the dismissal in the last Test, I think he was absolutely brilliant in this innings. And even the first innings, he kind of formed a partnership with Kohli as well, scored 27. So I think he's been brilliant in this Test. And so South Africa needed 212 to win. And the bowlers for South Africa, Rabada 3 for 53, Marco Jansen 4 for 36 and 19.3, and Lungi Ngidi 3 for 21 and 14. So they just didn't give any breathing space for India, as I said, bar that little bit of time towards the end of the previous day. And South Africa were 200. They needed 212 to win the game, and India still they bowled very well. And I think that, as I said before, this whole luxury bowling concept, where they did give a few runs, especially Aiden Markham got a few drives away. He tried to go. There were a few edges, but he tried to go for another drive and was caught off Mohammad Shami. And then Keegan Peterson walked into bat, and I think that, as I said, this luxury bowling concept kind of came into being. I think Keegan Peterson and Bavuma exploited it better than pretty much everyone else. And especially if you look at the free-flowing innings, of the big scoring, free-flowing innings that Keegan Peterson has played. 82 of 113. And I think that he was good off pace and spin. And India really found it difficult to dismiss him, and didn't dismiss him, or couldn't dismiss him until day 2, the next day. Now, Dean Elgar... there was the thing where Ashwin got Dean Elgar kind of a potential LBW decision, and the umpire gave it out. Elgar reviewed it, and then the ball and ball tracking said it was going over the stumps. Now, there's been a few things on this. The fact is that some people are saying that maybe it was wrong. The fact they compared it to the fact when I was actually just getting into cricket in 2011, when Saeed Ajmal the ball to Tendulkar went over the stumps. But there's also been an argument where there is quite a bit of bounce in this surface, and it may have done. If you look at the trajectory of the ball, there's a possibility that they could have got some bounce. And even more than that, I think the reaction from Kohli and some of the others when they saw what they said on the stump mic, apparently they were saying things about, I saw it, they were saying things about the broadcaster. Now I don't think the broadcaster would have anything to do with it, but I'm saying that I think it was kind of a bit unnecessary clamour in the end. And I think that I understand why Kohli was kind of angry. But I wouldn't really say they were wrong to do it, and I completely understand why you'd say that they were wrong to do it, but I'm saying that they would have been frustrated. And I don't think that it would have been the case. I don't think it's a complete case that the third umpire, or rather the ball tracking, had a howler, because there is bounce on the surface, and it may have been the case. But and that certainly wasn't the reason why India lost the game. So Elgar got out caught behind towards the end of the last ball of the day's play. And 101 for 2, and India and South Africa need 111 runs to win. I think the India kind of had a chance coming into this day, because, as I said, if they got the main batsman out, or past number 5, you think that, especially after the fact that South Africa were 159 for 4 in the first innings, and yet they got bowled out for 210. So India were always in the game, but I think that they beat the bat a lot of times. It was very difficult, and it was difficult at the start, and it's also difficult for that 150 mark when 3 wickets fell. And Van der Dussen and Bavuma had to be quite watchful. But the thing is, after that point, they kind of stabilised. And I think that if you look in this innings, they tried to give Shami and Bumrah extended spells, and I think that tells you something by the fact that Umesh Yadav went to 4 and over in this game. Thakur does give runs a bit. He does. You could say he's not as much as Umesh Yadav, but still he does give runs a bit. And when you're chasing 212, this isn't the bowler's fault, but I'm saying that Kohli was kind of reluctant to go to the others, and especially Ashwin, on conditions where there's not much assistance for him. They were finding it quite on the easier side to play him. So I think that you've effectively only had 2 bowlers of real kind of who you had to rely on getting the wickets. And so they gave extended spells to Bumrah and Shami. And so I do understand, you could say that they were quite tired, so maybe they couldn't have bowled later. And the reason I'm saying that's because I think that you would have thought India would have tried to go for it a bit more in the last session when it probably became apparent they were close to losing the game. Umesh Yadav and R. Ashwin, it just didn't make sense bowling them. Maybe Bumrah and Shami were tired, or maybe he just didn't want Bumrah to overwork himself at that point. But I'm saying that because I think he still has to be in the ODI series as well. But that's a speculation. But I'm saying that it's just that it was kind of I don't know why he went for Umesh Yadav and R. Ashwin. It was a bit of a pointless period of play. It was so easy for South Africa, really, apart from a few dot balls. And yeah, Bavuma hits Ashwin for a 4. South Africa win the series, and a dominant chase from South Africa. And as I said, I really think that this luxury bowling thing hurt India, where, of course, the batsman... Now, what I'm going to say is this, right? Before I say this, I actually don't think you should look to this test as the one where a negative's at. Because honestly, go through... Now be honest. Now, take the thing out that India lost the series. What was the negative in this test? And you'll see that you probably won't be able to find one. Because the bowlers themselves, they were defending, the many balls beat the bat. They were defending, they didn't have many runs to play with. The batsmen mostly got out to good deliveries. And yeah, you couldn't have, and in the 198, you could not have said that anyone played a bad shot, maybe apart from Ashwin. So yeah, I just feel like you couldn't have, as far as negatives for India in this test, you could not have found anything, because I just think South Africa, they bowled absolutely unplayable. And I think that especially, this isn't a criticism, it's just an observation. If you look at the way that India relied on bowling, they beat the outside edge quite a lot. And I think for South Africa, they kind of seamed from middle stump. And I think that if you look at the Agarwal dismissals where he was caught at slip, he basically had to play it. Yes, the others had to play it, the other ones as well. And I'm saying that. And South Africa had to play their deliveries as well, but I'm saying that it kind of seemed from middle stump, seemed away a fraction. And I think that the deliveries that India faced would have kind of been, you couldn't have really played and missed at those at all. And it's not an observation, because Indian bowlers just bowled out of their skins, and they bowled many unplayable deliveries, and despite giving runs. And I think that the despite giving runs bit is the reason why they couldn't really maintain any pressure. And yeah, that's just an observation. I don't think that you could say that India should have bowled the deliveries that South Africa did, because they did what they did would usually work. I just think that there was a bit of an unluckiness from bowlers' perspective, because they did beat the bat many times. But I think that more than this test, it's actually the second test, because honestly, I think that luxury bowling mentality really was showed in the other one, where yes, they beat the bat, but I'm saying that the singles, and you can say a bit of that was in this set as well, the singles and the boundaries given. I think that, especially when when they're defending 240, I really think the singles and boundaries, with the way they just lost the plot in the final day. As I said, maybe a bowler down maybe would have contributed to that, but they could have still held their nerve a bit better. I think that... Also, if you look at the batsmen, I talked about the fact that there wasn't many negatives you could say in this test, but in the second test, it was pretty much mostly, especially in the first innings, it was pretty much bad shots. And I just think that, yeah, it just wasn't too great. And if you look at the Rishabh Pant dismissal in the previous test as well, it was pretty much just bad shots. So I actually think the second test was the one that, if you could pick out any negatives, it should be the second test. I honestly don't think that you can say much for this third test, because if you looked at what India did wrong, and they couldn't have really done much. They were pretty much in the game for the whole game, and they were in the game for the second test as well, pretty much the whole game. But they kind of undid it, because they really misfired on occasions in the second test with the bat. And I wouldn't really blame the bowlers as much, because they were a bowler down. But I'm saying that, yeah, I think that especially the first things that they got with the shots that were played, there's certainly more negatives to be picked out of that test rather than this one. But yeah, South Africa win this series, a great win for them, and I think that it's really Marco Jansen has been unearthed, and I think that, yeah, a very exciting prospect. Keegan Peterson, the best batsman by far in this series. And yeah, I think that that was this series. Obviously, as an Indian fan, I would have wanted India to come away with a win, but I do like watching South Africa play, and also I like cricket being played in South Africa. And as I said, this ground, Cape Town, is my favorite venue in cricket, and so I think that this series was a very good series to watch. Both sides were in it, especially in these last two games. Both sides were in the series, and you couldn't really say that either side played really that badly as such. And I think that in both these tests, both sides were in it until the very last day, and South Africa took their opportunities in their fourth innings and dominated the chases and won both games. Yeah, well done to them. And now to the ODI series. So other news, Chris Morris has retired from all forms of cricket. I know this was kind of a surprise for me because despite the fact he didn't have a great IPL, I think injuries did play a part in him making this decision, because I don't think that whatever he does, I think the balance that he offers in a T20 side, I think that you would have expected him to get quite a decent bid in the auction. But yeah, I wish him all the best. And speaking of the IPL, I actually thought that the 12th and the 13th of February, which is the date of the IPL auction, would have been a cherry on the cake, because I thought India win this series. And as I said, it was just for the record. For me, obviously, I wanted India to win this series because of the record that they haven't won a test series in South Africa. And I thought that India winning this series and then the IPL auction kind of being the cherry on top. And especially the rumored three players that have been picked by the Ahmedabad franchise in Hardik Pandya, Ishan Kishan, and KL Rahul. Hardik Pandya, Ishan Kishan, and Rashid Khan. I think that I was quite hyped. I'm quite hyped for the IPL auction. I just wish that it was kind of more India had won this series, and I could have kind of been even more happy about it. But I guess look, it is what it is. Congratulations to South Africa, and the ODIs are going to start soon, and let's see what happens then. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion, what's yours?